Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hey everybody, Zach Matchett here. I'm filling in for Steve today. Welcome to New Life Live. So glad you're with us, wherever you're listening to us from. Welcome. So glad you make us a part of your day. I'm here with Dr. Jill Hubbard. Hi, Jill.
Hello, Zach.
Good to be with you again.
Yes.
And Dr. Alice Benton.
Hi, you
Alice.
too. Hi, folks.
Good to see you all. And yesterday we wrapped up our program by talking about this idea of secrecy. It kind of became a bit of a theme for a couple of our calls, and we just kind of ended up ruminating there at the end of the time together. Just the hold that secrecy can have on our own lives, and what it can oftentimes, frankly, delay in a bad way because it's been remaining a secret, or it's stayed a secret. And I was just reflecting on God's Word. You know, there's a verse in the New Testament, James chapter 5, verse 16. He says, "Therefore confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed." And the idea of confession and healing going hand in hand. And then he says, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. I'd love to throw it to you guys, because someone's going, okay, easier said than done, Mr. Radio Man and Mr. Radio Ladies. Like, you have no idea. The secret that I'm carrying, it would end everything. It would ruin everything. It would unearth so many things. I couldn't put the toothpaste back in the bottle fast enough after I do it. What would you say to that skeptical person to persuade them maybe that concealing it is actually way worse than confessing it?
I would first validate that sometimes it is the case that revealing that truth does ruin everything and does end relationships. And that is a risk that we do take in breaking through our deception. But that's the rare case. It's shocking to me, especially when we talk about secrets like betrayal and infidelity, how often the recipient of the truth, when it's a disclosure versus a discovery, actually feels great relief, because there's a sense in a relationship when something is being omitted. We're not good at hiding the truth. There's tells in our body, in our behavior, in our avoidance. And so when we disclose, it often strengthens relationship when the disclosure is followed with or accompanied by behavior change.
Yeah.
So I think we also have to ask ourselves, what is the risk in not sharing it? I think you were talking about that at the end last time, Zach, that there is a consequence to keeping something secret and omitting information from someone that we love. We can't truly feel as connected to a person when there is something between us. And Alice, as you said, sometimes the other person, they just can't put their finger on it. They know something's not right, right? And this, I've talked about before, this, when we have secrets or when we lie about things, that leads to all kinds of compensations, like addictions, right? People who are addicts tend to lie. And in order to get help and healing, you have to have some rigorous honesty in your life in order to move forward. Or, the whole phenomenon of gaslighting, right? Is all about deception and lying and secrets, and it's not about healthy relating. And so we rob ourselves of that.
Totally.
Even if we get out of the consequence we fear.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and are you, maybe asking yourself, am I a safe person for the truth to be told to? Is this family when the truth is told, is there an ease and a sense of calm versus a blow up? Right. Because if you tell the truth, or you unearth a secret and you confess something, then that's all you have. I mean, John Powell wrote years ago, if I show you the real me and you don't accept me, that's the only me I have. So that's the major risk. But maybe asking yourself, is this a safe place for the truth to be told? I hope it is everywhere. Stay with us. If you're on the line, we'll get to your calls here in a second. Thanks so much for joining us today on New Life Live.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, he just one weekend, I completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Washington, D.C., July 8th to the 10th. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com. 1-800-NEWLIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome again to New Life Live. Zach Matchett here, filling in for Steve Arterburn. Dr. Jill Hubbard and Dr. Alice Benton are with me. We are ready to be good listeners to those that are calling in. We're going to do our very best to just offer some insight, wisdom, counsel, whatever you feel like you need. But we know how challenging it is to call in and kind of talk about what you're going through, and so we want to affirm that as we jump into here. So let's go ahead and take our first call. This is Reese. She's listening to us on Spotify, which you can actually follow us and subscribe to New Life on Spotify. Listen to the podcast there. She's listening to us in Florida. Hi, Reese. Welcome to New Life Live. How can we help you today?
Hi. So my husband and I have been married 23 years. We did premarital counseling. He was honest and told me he struggled with pornography. So before getting married, I knew. He has really struggled with it. We have like filtering porn, Christian-based porn filters on all of our devices. He recently found a way to bypass it. He slipped up. We've had premarital counseling in the past with our pastor. He had an emotional affair. He's now signed up and going to Every Man's Battle workshops weekly in a local church. Our church didn't offer it, but another church did.
Okay, good.
But we go through this cycle every 2 to 3 years. There's something, and he struggles, and he kind of put some blame on me at the beginning. He recently said he was wrong. He should have never done it. It had nothing to do with me. And then he recently said, it's not a struggle. I'm an addict. I'm angry. I'm always angry now, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to process my anger. Yesterday's call about discovery versus disclosure and everything, I had a little bit of both. I did discover some stuff, but I had full disclosure at the beginning. But I'm angry. I'm walking on eggshells to not talk to him about how I feel, because he's in his version of recovery through these weekly meetings, and he does share with me that it's helping him. But I'm freaking angry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability. I mean, even just this just shows that when somebody is in an addiction, it doesn't just affect them. I mean, this is a marriage. The two shall become one flesh. I mean, the scripture is clear. Like this is a total holistic problem. So again, Reese, thank you for sharing. Ladies, I'll throw it to you. I mean, there's good steps taken here, but there's workarounds. There's an affair here. It certainly seems like the root of whatever it is has not been dug up. Maybe just the plant or the stem. There's not a real root that's been dug up here is why these things continue to happen. What would you say to Reese?
I want to start with your anger. Sister, I'm glad you're angry. Your anger is needed in this situation, and it might even be a somewhat missing component in how hard you work to hold back your anger and perhaps try not to reveal it to your husband. Tell us, what is your fear of what might happen if you expressed your anger?
That he'll break. He won't continue to do the steps to work on himself, because I'll shatter him. He seems really fragile right now. Once I did tell him when we did talk, that there is this cycle of every 2 to 3 years, there's something that comes and breaks down our marriage. And I did tell him that I felt like he was like self-sabotaging, and maybe he was afraid of success. And when I was that honest with him, he kind of went into a shell, and he just looked really fragile. And I think that's why I'm not saying anything any further.
Reese, when you've expressed your anger, like on that occasion or perhaps at other times in the past, has it resulted in a separation where your husband left for a period of time?
No. He's too afraid to leave. No.
And you have not ever left him either through all this time?
I talked about leaving, and I did take some beginning steps to leave. When he had the emotional affair at his job, I'd asked him to leave the job, and he wouldn't leave the job. And the interactions were still happening, and I started to take some steps to move out. And I believe God removed the woman. The woman got another job in another city. And then he was forced to then do some work because she was gone. He was forced to look inward. And then that's when we went for we went for marital counseling after.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it took us 3 years, even after she left, for us to really go for solid, consistent counseling. And I had been begging and begging and begging to go to counseling, and there always was an excuse. Work, I'm in line for another promotion, my schedule, but we did end up going.
Okay.
So, Reese, it seems like your husband is one of these people who kind of has 1 foot in and 1 foot out of getting help.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, you did.
I knew you were going to say that. The word that I got from God this weekend was double-minded.
Yes. Like he starts to do the right thing, but he only does it halfway, right? And so when we stay in our ambivalence, it's to ward off loss, right? So it's like he doesn't want to let go of either side of things. In premarital counseling, that was good that he confessed that, right? So that's a start, and that would make you hopeful. But then his efforts since that time have been half-hearted, double-minded, as you are saying. He's afraid to fully, like he embraces that he's an addict, but and this is probably why. I mean, he's afraid to fully embrace recovery. And part of addiction is that it hijacks your brain, and you actually believe you will die without your addiction, even though it makes no logical sense. And so that's a tough thing to break. So a lot of addicts try to walk the fence. They know what they're doing is wrong, but it's like, well, I'll just do it a little bit. And so they walk the fence, and then they wonder why they have mediocre results, right? And as you've said, these disruptions to your relationship happen then every 2 to 3 years because an addict cannot maintain walking the fence. And so for you, yes, the anger over the years, something has to change here. We have lots of resources that are helpful. You said he's in an Every Man's Battle group. Does that mean he went to the workshop?
I don't know if it's a workshop. It's just a weekly meeting.
Okay.
Every Monday at a church.
Right. Okay, which is good. Which is good.
I've asked him to get the book, and he drives. He's like a delivery driver during the week. So I've asked him, why don't you even get the book audio so that you can listen as you're driving? Sometimes twice a week he does like long haul drives. It's like an hour and a half drive up each way. So I was like, you could really, get, but I don't want to buy the audio book. I don't want to get the account. I'm tired of doing all of the work to fix him. And that's like another issue.
Wait, you're saying that you're tired of doing all the work to fix him? He's not taking initiative? Correct. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, and here's the thing, Reese.
I won't get the book for him.
Okay, I understand that. But here's the thing. Often men do not jump into action until there is a bigger threat of loss, unfortunately. And during the maintenance of relationship, it's us women that kind of suffer because we're trying to do everything we can to work on the relationship. So it's unfortunate, but I think that you have to let him know that this isn't working for you anymore. That it's like there's this elephant in the room constantly, and it's not being addressed. It's like you guys are dancing around it. He's doing a little bit here and there. But so you're not sure what you're going to do yet, but you know that something needs to be different. So you put him on notice that this way he's living. You also have compassion for him and saying that I appreciate that you admit you're an addict. And I can even appreciate that you're scared to death. And because of being an addict, emotionally, that's kept you in a more fragile place. But in all of my efforts to protect you, this isn't working. I'm becoming more and more angry, and I don't want to be angry and blow up and leave. But I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah.
So again, you've got to put him on notice that something has to change and that it's different this time, because you just kind of going along with this, being upset with him, he can pacify you. Reese, that isn't working.
Yeah, and I would say too, like I'm even thinking about maybe an individual counseling route for you, Reese, to kind of work through why is it that so much time has passed? I mean, certainly you want to stay faithful and committed to your spouse. That's not that, but just maybe some of the hesitation to do what you just described. Where is that coming from? What is the root of maybe kind of the prolonged and not doing something more dire or more drastic to try to get to? I mean, there may be some roots there even within you that you can kind of learn and grow from too, and that would help inform your best next steps as well. And so I would recommend that as well, because obviously he's got his kind of recovery group, support group side of things as well. I would recommend in the same way for you who's experiencing that hurt to go that same route as well. And if you need resources with that, we'd love to help you. Joe, I'll give you Alice, I'll give you the last word here.
Reese, I want you to explore where the belief comes from of my anger will break people. My anger will break and shatter my husband. Because I believe that it's an exaggerated view of your anger, but it's probably based in a reality that you experienced. Maybe you saw something between your parents. You've seen how other people's destructive anger can ruin things. But righteous anger protects what is good and what's noble and what needs protection. So your self-restraint is unfortunately protecting his addictive behavior. And the addition of consequences is what tends to help an addict who has not yet garnered sufficient success from treatment. It's sometimes when there is a separation, even if it's in-house or whether you leave for a time, that brings about the necessary motivation and momentum for someone like your husband to really choose all that he needs to do to gain his sobriety.
Yeah.
So
well
it
said.
might be that you ask him to go to every man's battle, or you're going to have some time away. That might be a criteria you set up.
That's the ultimatum. Yeah. And I want to send her a copy of Take Your Life Back, because I think there's a sense of maybe just regaining her bearings, emotionally, and I'm working through some of the complications, again, things that are happening to her, but then also things that, as you just mentioned there, Alice, the question of why that stuff is happening. So that's really good, ladies. We're going to get to just our next call here and kind of get some unpacking done before we go to the next breaks. We're going to go to Pat. Pat is listening to us in Pennsylvania. Hi, Pat. Welcome to New Life Live. How can we help you today?
Well, thank you so much. And before I called, I really prayed and asked God to help me to know what to ask. I have to be one of these people that have to be very, very careful, because I could go on and on and on. But
we will kindly interrupt you, Pat, if that's okay. We will kindly.
Thank you for the warning, Pat.
Yeah, we'll kindly interrupt.
It's okay. It's okay.
So how can we help you? What's the question you would have for today?
Oh, okay. The question is, I have a granddaughter, and she's had a lot of emotional trauma. She had Tourette's syndrome and ADD. I don't think she has Tourette's syndrome anymore, but she does have ADD. I did get your book, How to Love and Understand Someone Who Has ADD. It was very informative. Well, right now we're in a situation, my daughter is, anyway, with my granddaughter. She's really going down a very dangerous path. she's had a lot of emotional trauma, and I guess maybe 2 years ago, what had happened was my granddaughter, I'm trying to think now. My granddaughter's stepfather overdosed, and the girls were very, very angry. They were so angry because she has a sister, and then there's their little brother. He has recovered, but they moved out. It would have nothing to do with my daughter for over 2 years. I did pray, and God did answer my prayer. And then, unfortunately, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We're going to go to a break here, so I want you to stay on the line, and you can finish your thought when we get back, because I want to make sure we get the right context. We know how to answer your question. And so, again, there's a lot to unpack here, but thanks for being a great grandmother to your granddaughter to even call on her behalf. That is to be commended. We'll be right back after this.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction. He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict. There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is coming to Dallas, Texas, July 15th through the 17th. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go online to newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I turned on New Life, and the topic that day was about anxiety. And just by listening, I got relief.
You can help New Life stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of the Life Recovery Bible personal size, the 1-year Life Recovery Prayer Devotional, the New Life Journal, a New Life pen and highlighter, and a New Life zipper tote to hold it all. Plus, there are ongoing benefits like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks again for joining us today here on New Life Live. Zach Matchett filling in for Steve Arterburn. Dr. Alice Benton and Dr. Jill Hubbard are my tag team partners today. Pat is on the line with us. And we just had a quick question, Pat. You told us about your granddaughter's ADD and just the
past Tourette's.
Yeah, the past Tourette's, and there's the overdose and just the family and all that. Is there anything else that is specific to your granddaughter that she's struggling with?
Well, right now, unfortunately, she had a lot of emotional trauma, and there was a time when she was very open. She was very, very open to counseling. She even went to Al-Anon because her father has an alcohol problem, and then what happened was when this situation occurred with her stepdad and they moved out, she was moving in between her father and her boyfriend, and something really bad happened there. So now,
do you mind sharing what it was? Do you mind sharing what that was, Pat?
Well, what was?
The very bad thing that happened.
Oh, the bad thing? Well, see, I don't know the thing that had happened with the boyfriend. I don't know. But her dad, her father is, my heart goes out to him. I understand what happened in his childhood, but he needs to take responsibility, and he's not willing. When my granddaughter moved in with him, He was drinking, and then he introduced her to drinking, and then they would be up all night. Then they would be sleeping. He would wake her up in the morning.
Pat, there have just been multiple traumas, layers of addiction through your family.
Yeah.
And is your granddaughter currently continuing to struggle with addiction?
Excuse me?
Is your granddaughter continuing to struggle with addiction currently?
Okay, this is what's happening now. Okay, she, unfortunately, like I said, she was very willing at one time to get help. Now she doesn't want any help at all. She's going out with people. She's going to rave parties. Last October, she overdosed on something, went into the hospital. Then
Pat,
she came home.
Pat, you're giving us a really good, clear picture. What's your question with all this ongoing, concerning behavior? How can we help you?
Okay, this is my question. Okay, right now there's so much upheaval in the house with my daughter, the stepdad, and my granddaughter, and there's a 7-year-old grandson. And it's like my granddaughter right now, I'm really worried about her. She's going down a very dangerous path. She's going to these rave parties.
So Pat, what's your question for us? You could ask us a how or what.
Okay, and I'm trying. Okay, what do you think the next step should be concerning her?
And she is currently living with your daughter, and they are not living with you. Is that correct?
Oh no, that's my I'm the grandmom.
And do you live near your granddaughter?
Oh yes, and I take care of my grandson. My daughter, she's a wonderful mother. She is a hard worker. She's been in counseling. She's done everything. My daughter even homeschooled my granddaughter for a whole year when she was diagnosed with ADD. And she was going to counseling.
Oh, she's doing what she can. She's doing what she can. So, Pat, would you tell us about, just briefly, your relationship with your granddaughter? Do you have access even to communicate with her?
And how old is she? We haven't gotten that.
Okay, she's 19.
Okay.
She's 19.
And is she in communication with you?
Excuse me?
Is she in communication with you? Does she talk with you?
Sometimes.
Okay. All right.
Sometimes. I don't know. Sometimes, I don't know if it has to do with the ADD. I have a very difficult time communicating with my granddaughter. Something came up in the car last week, and I just wanted to give her a suggestion. And she said, "Grandma, I'm an adult. I can make my own choices."
Yeah.
And she said, "Grandma, I can't be like you. You're so loving. You're so perfect. You're so kind. You want me to be like that." But I don't want her to be like that.
Well, goodness gracious, neither do we. And I applaud you for even calling to figure out how to step in if you can. So I want to throw it to the ladies here and see if we can maybe offer some next steps, because that was the question that you asked.
Well, I'm wondering, Pat, too, it sounds like you and your daughter have a good relationship since you help her out and you're seeing all the good things that she does as a mom. So part of it is helping to empower her mother to take some steps too, right? This is a really hard age, and sometimes kids have to play things out until they are ready to get help. But as family members, stepping in to try to raise that bottom for people, I think is an important thing to do, to be able to address your granddaughter in terms of what she is wanting in life and how she sees herself. And I'll have more to say when we come back.
Yeah. Well, stay online. Yeah, we'll finish. We'll kind of close the loop there. And I'm thinking, just as a resource, maybe how we love our kids. And again, just that, even from a grandparent's perspective, stepping in and helping, it creates a feeling of paralysis. Like you want to help, but yet you're not the biological parent, and yet you want to do everything you can to stand the gap. So we'll chat about that when we get back from the break, and we'll tie a bow on this. We'll be back.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks again for hanging out with us today on New Life Live. Zach Matchett here with Dr. Alice Benton and Dr. Jill Hubbard. We've been chatting with Pat, who's calling on behalf of her granddaughter, who this is a complex situation. A lot of trauma, a lot of things, both self-inflicted, but also things that happened to her that's creating a lot of family conflict. And we have a grandmother who feels a bit at a loss for just what to do next.
Right.
And so Alice, I'll put it to you. Yeah, Jill, go ahead. Sorry.
Just a couple of things real quick. So Pat, I think, be in connection with your daughter in terms of you guys supporting each other to kind of form a united front for this granddaughter. She's telling you that she's an adult and she gets to make her own choices. So you have to approach it differently. You have to be asking questions like, is what you're doing getting you what you want? How can I come alongside you and help you be successful? Kind of remind her of the parts of herself that perhaps have wanted something different. And she's saying, I can't be like you, probably because she's thinking too much bad stuff has happened or she's already spoiled it. I would also validate the fact that it seems like all of the men in her life have pointed towards drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? She has a lot of addicts around her, and how hard that is, and how you can understand that sometimes that might feel like the best option to get away from the things that trouble her. So I think those are some important things.
Pat, it's so good that you have awareness both about your own family, the brokenness in the family, but also that you mentioned at the beginning that you can talk for a while. And I would take that knowledge you have about yourself and be cautious to be more of a listener than a talker with your granddaughter. You probably know this. Unsolicited advice just doesn't get really into the brain. It tends to shut down communication. But it is good to let your granddaughter know briefly, I love you and I'm worried about you. I'm worried about what's going on in your life. And I know that there is a setup in this family for addiction. So, Pat, if you and any of the other family members would be willing to go back to Al-Anon with her, to offer to do that. You used to go in the past. It was so wise that you did that. Would you ever go back with me again? Your mom and I are going, and we'd love to have you come with us.
Yeah.
Even if she doesn't agree to it, model it for her and show support by your willingness to go with her or without her.
Yeah, well said.
And sometimes, too, instead of focusing on the current behaviors, I mean, I agree, you have to let her know you're really concerned. Don't go into about all the raves and all of that. You're concerned because of the drugs and the alcohol, the destructive choices there. But what you understand, again, is about this emotional trauma. And would she be willing to get help for the emotional trauma that she's experienced? Because you see her as self-medicating, probably self-medicating her ADD as well as the emotional trauma.
So if you want to help financially support that, if that's a possibility, Pat, or help link her in to one of our therapists in our network, you can help do some of that footwork so that the information is there and available if and when she's willing to take it.
Yeah, that reminds me of this workshop. Well, Joe, you're going to be presenting at it, this online workshop. It's called Courageous Parents, Transforming Relationships with Your Adult Sons and Daughters. And that might be a helpful next step for Pat's daughter, the mother of the granddaughter, maybe to potentially do as well. And I would recommend that to anybody listening, if you have children who are now adulthood. Again, as we've talked about several times over the program, is that your relationship with your kids shifts into a different season, a different phase, and it's just as important to strengthen and have those relationships. So take advantage of that as well. I don't know, Joe, if you want to say anything more about that, but that might be a good action step too.
Right. No, that could be, because we as parents are in our parenting mode, and we've been doing it for a long time, and it's hard to make that shift, especially when we see that emotionally they're really not acting like adults, right? And they don't they aren't fully launched, and they need our help as well. So it's a hard shift to make, but it's important that we validate how they see themselves. Otherwise, they'll shut us out.
Well said, yeah. Well, when you give to New Life, and I know many of you listening today have contributed or are current contributors, and you make it possible for people like Pat to call in and get help and get the resources and get the next steps. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. We're in this match campaign, and when you give, everything is going to be doubled. We're trying to hit a particular number, but we want to get as much help to people that really, really need it. And so not only was it part of the match campaign, but if you give, we got a couple days of June here left. If you give the next 2 days, we're going to send you a copy of Dave Stoops' book. It's called, Making Peace with Your Father. It's 11 steps to help you make peace with your earthly father so it can transform your relationship with your heavenly Father. And so that's just our gift to you for giving during the month of June. But again, more importantly than that, when you contribute to this ministry, you're allowing opportunities like Pat and others to get the help that they need, whether they're the one receiving help or they're calling on behalf of somebody else. And man, what a gift to be able to give to them to make these things available to them. So thanks so much for doing that. We're going to get to got 2 calls left. We're going to try to get to Bethany here. She's been waiting patiently. Thank you so much, Bethany. She's listening to us on Sirius XM. And please, Bethany, share with us. How can we help you today?
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Yeah.
My question is, I have grown children, and there's some tension between how they see their expectations of them being adult children and what I'm obligated to them, and what I view my obligation now that they're grown. And it has caused a lot of conflict on that. And part of that scenario is I am divorced, remarried. My husband has taken full role of being a father and raising them, and in the growing years provided, 100% full responsibility of the father figure, and continued that support after they have grown, and their biological father has not. Yet they do not have the same view of what his obligation is. And so it all comes back to me, and it's caused a lot of tension. And so I'm just kind of like, what is a biblical resource that I can go to so I can stand on truth when I have conversations with them. Because if I'm wrong, I'll admit that I'm wrong. I just am kind of at a loss.
Yeah.
What's one of their expectations of you, Bethany?
That we have a large inheritance for them when we pass.
Oh man, me too. Wow. I tell my folks that all the time. Please, just, I know that you got to split. I got 4 siblings. Just split it up evenly. Just put 100 next to my name. It'll be totally fine. No, I'm just kidding. No.
And what are they thinking you should be doing in the present to make that happen in the future?
So this is challenging. My husband and I, he's retired military, so we have invested, we firmly believe in investing in people, and we do have a retirement plan for like longevity.
Do they think you're giving away too much? You're giving away too much of their future money?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the conversation we have with them, and this is maybe where I'm wrong, and that's where I am like, okay, where does it say in the Bible? Like, how do we really act?
Okay, so
and walk?
Excuse me, Bethany, I want you to get this book. Yeah. It's called Entitled Mania: How Not to Spoil Your Kids and What to Do If You Have. It's by Richard Watts, and he's actually a friend of the ministry. I don't know if we carry his book, but please get that book because it will be very enlightening for you. Bethany, how old are your kids?
The oldest is in his 30s, and the youngest is mid-20s. And there's a lot of complexities with this. My oldest recently went through a divorce, and he blames me.
Oh.
Because I divorced their father.
Okay.
And so he says that I didn't set a good example, and so he...
So there's what has happened in your
I get
family?
To blame a lot.
Right, as moms do, right? When people don't want to take responsibility for themselves. But it does seem like your kids, in a lot of ways, aren't looking at their own choices and actions. They're not even looking towards their future in terms of taking responsibility for themselves. So even though their chronological age is 20s and 30s, they're sounding almost like they still live at home and expect mom and dad to carry the burden.
I know we need to go to break because I do hear the music as well. But
yeah, no, stay on the line. We'll be back with you here in a second. Man, we need to put some boundaries up too. That word kept coming up to me as you were sharing. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't benefit from emotional freedom. We're all bound or stuck or struggling in some area. What are we going to do there, Chris?
Just really help people get clarity around the places where they're stuck in their life. They sort of circle the same mountain of disappointment over and over and over again. You're going to be able to see that mountain clearly and get to a new place of what we call emotional freedom, which is simply I can feel in the world, build a relationship to it, and know what to do with my experiences.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Workshop is Saturday, August 20th. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie McHarris will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or register online at newlife.com. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue. and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Thanks again for joining us today on New Life Live. Zach Matchett here with Dr. Jill Hubbard, Dr. Alice Benton. We've got Bethany on the line chatting with her about her just some complications with her 4 adult children. Alice, I want to throw it to you real quick so you can have a chance to share with Bethany.
Oh gosh, Bethany, I think I could even hear the tears in your voice as you describe this, because your children treat you in very painful and disrespectful ways at times. And it's got to be hard to know what to do, given that there is true pain with the separation of their parents. And so there is a part that you played in that. We don't even know the story there. So I'd have you take a couple different approaches to this. And one is to invite the truth about their hurt. I can hear about how the divorce affected you, as you're willing to talk with me in a calm and respectful way. I want to hear about how that impacted you in your life and your marriage. But if these things start to happen in our conversation, if the accusations start to come, or you raise your voice at me or you curse at me, then I would need to end that conversation. But I can hear respectful communication of your pain. And then, Bethany, allow your children's opinion to influence your behavior, but don't let it dictate what you do. And so you might consider, are you giving away such an enormous amount that perhaps it might be good to rein in the generosity? But if you disagree with them and their opinion, which sounds a little selfish on the surface of it, then acknowledge that this is hard for you. You see us spending this money that you wish were going to you, but this is the choice that we have made. This is the level of generosity that we plan on maintaining. I would try to allow them to influence, though, that level, if at all possible, if you think there's anything reasonable in their concern or their complaint. But then that boundary that we were talking about is protecting yourself from abusive conversation from your children and letting them know, if you keep talking to me in this way, I'll need to step away for a while.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I would just recommend just 2 quick things. I'd mentioned How We Love Our Kids as a resource I want to send to you, Bethany, but I also want to just recommend this workshop we mentioned earlier, this online workshop that Jill will be presenting at again.
We've got good stuff on this.
Courageous Parents, Transforming Relationships with Your Adult Sons and Daughters. This is happening August 13th. I didn't mention the date earlier, but again, online workshop, Transforming Relationships with Your Adult Sons and Daughters on August 13th. That would be a great next step as well to take part in. We got time for one call as we wrap up today. We're going to go to Sandy. Sandy's been waiting very patiently. Thank you so much, Sandy. You're listening to us in Nashville, Tennessee, watching us on YouTube. Hi, Sandy. How can we help you today here on New Life Live?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. My question is, what is the best way to move forward with my relationship with my son and new daughter-in-law? And should I move forward? So the situation is, I was just a single mom, and he got married last year, and it was a transition that I was not expecting. Sorry, it took me down just a very dark path, and it triggered something in me from my past. I had abandonment issues and
oh my goodness,
rejection, and but he married someone that also has some things in her past. And when I went down this dark path, not understanding what was really going on, I ended up cutting my wrist And that really triggered something for her, and they cut me off. And so we haven't spoken for 7 months until last night. We had a conversation, and the whole focus was on what I did to trigger her. And
Sandy,
sounds like a lot of shame that you're carrying too.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. You were a single mom. Did you feel very connected to your son prior to his marriage?
We were so extremely close.
Yeah. This is one of the areas that I don't think is talked about enough. It's different with daughters than it is with sons, and especially being a single mom. And I'm in this same boat as well. And sons, when they leave and have a new female in their lives, that person becomes the number one female. Prior to that, it's mom or mom and sister.
Right.
And there is a grieving that is very real and very deep that has to take place, because you really have to hand your son over. And it's biblical. I mean, King Solomon's mom talked about this. There's a scripture in the Bible about this. You really have to hand your son over to this new female and recognize that she is in that number one spot now. And it is such a painful loss. And if you're not prepared for it, it will catch you by surprise. And I can see why it would trigger up so much abandonment for you at a very deep and primitive level, that you cut yourself because of it, right? Because of the pain. Sandy, I think it's really important that you do some of your own work in this grieving process and how to navigate moving forward. There is a way through this. So that would be really, really important. And I'm glad that there has been some communication now. And I think as the mom, here's the thing that's so hard. You're still in the position of mom who needs to understand them. His role is to protect her. That's his number one role, and to make her feel secure. And new wives do not feel secure for a really long time, especially in the face of mother-in-law who used to have her position. So I want you to be aware of that. And so you hearing how you have hurt her is appropriate. Your hurt needs to be taken elsewhere, and you need to grieve with others.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. What about you, Alice?
Well, Sandy, in answer to your question, I don't believe it is the time to cut off relationship with your son. It's the time to build community apart from your son. You probably need an individual therapist, and you need a group of women, perhaps who have also suffered abandonment. I think that, Jill, what is the treatment? The Linehan treatment. It would be so good for you.
The DBT?
Yes. Dialectical behavioral therapy, I think, would really help with your abandonment that you have experienced, not just from your son, but from other people. So build up that community. I can understand your desire to cut him off to protect yourself from further harm, and it would probably feel that way at the beginning, but the overall longer-term loss would just be so detrimental to you in the long run.
Yeah, and again, I mean, just that idea of getting into a group, I mean, that's something that we can, I mean, whether you stay on the line, Sandy and someone in our call center can get you the information, but just visit newlife.com. Those are some resources that we can get you pointed into the right direction. And I'd love to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, because to some degree there is this sense of ownership that maybe you feel that you haven't felt in quite some time, because you've been in this mom mode for so long, that now that your son has launched into this new marriage relationship, and now not only that, there's distance, there's a fracture in the relationship, and it may feel, I don't want to speculate, but I'm going to say it's an educated guess, that there's a lot of loneliness, isolation. Mm-hmm. And boy, when you're struggling or triggered in some way, that is only more intense when you don't have people in your life that you can go to if you're really struggling. And so, Sandy, be encouraged by that. Again, we'd love to help you get pointed in the right direction. We'll send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. And for those of you that are out there listening today, don't struggle alone. Find community, find people through a local church, through a recovery group, let us know how we can help you. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We can get you pointed in the right direction. Jill and Alice, thanks so much. We'll see you next time, guys.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.